Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the lively city mall buzzed with shoppers, a silent observer, Leighton, navigated through the waves of people. He initially had a mundane list of errands, but his mundane afternoon was about to take an unexpected turn. A colossal advertisement hanging above captured his attention, distracting him from his ordinary tasks. Witness the evolution of transportation. Teleportation trials commence today. Curious, he drifted towards the source of the hype, a makeshift laboratory occupying a once vacant unit. Onlookers had gathered, witnessing brave participants entering a state-of-the-art metallic pod, vanishing amidst a burst of light, and seamlessly materializing in another identical pod just yards apart.
"Don't be shy, everyone,"
exclaimed a vivacious scientist, donning a crisp white lab coat. "You're witnessing history!" He'd always been fascinated by science fiction, but the idea of having his atoms disassembled and reassembled gave him pause. Still, the opportunity to be part of history was tempting.
"Is it really safe?"
he asked, approaching the scientist. She beamed at him. "Absolutely! We've conducted thousands of successful tests. The process is completely painless and takes less than a second. Would you like to give it a try?" Leighton glanced at the chambers, then back at the eager scientist.
"Well, I suppose it couldn't hurt to try."
"Excellent! Just step this way and we'll get you prepped." Leighton followed her to a small cubicle where he was asked to fill out some paperwork and change into a special jumpsuit. As he emerged, he noticed a group of women being ushered into a separate area.
"What's going on over there?"
he asked. The scientist glanced over. "Oh, that's part of our ongoing research. We're collecting DNA samples from volunteers to study the effects of teleportation on genetic material. Nothing to worry about for your test, though." Leighton nodded, trying to quell the butterflies in his stomach as he was led to the departure chamber. The door sealed behind him with a soft hiss. "All right, Mr. Andrews," came the scientist's voice over a speaker. "Just relax and stand still. You'll feel a slight tingling sensation, and then you'll be on the other side before you know it." Leighton took a deep breath, closing his eyes as a low hum filled the chamber. The tingling started in his toes, quickly spreading throughout his body. There was a flash of light behind his eyelids, and then nothing. Leighton blinked, disoriented. He was still in the chamber, but something felt off. His center of gravity seemed different, and there was an unfamiliar weight on his chest. As he raised his hand to rub his eyes, he froze. His hand was smaller, with slender fingers and neatly manicured nails.
"What the—"
Leighton's eyes widened at the sound of his voice. Or rather, not his voice. It was higher, softer. The chamber door slid open, and Leighton stumbled out on unsteady legs. The world seemed slightly off-kilter, as if he'd shrunk a few inches. "Congratulations on your successful teleportation, miss." The scientist approached with a bright smile, then faltered as she got a closer look. "Wait a minute. Weren't you—" Leighton caught sight of his reflection in a nearby mirror and gasped. Staring back at him was a young woman with shoulder-length auburn hair and delicate features. He, was wearing the same jumpsuit, but it now hugged unfamiliar curves. "What happened to me?" Leighton's new voice came out as a panicked squeak. The scientist's eyes widened in alarm.
"Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
This isn't supposed to happen. Let me just—" She hurried over to a computer terminal, fingers flying across the keyboard.
"It seems there was some kind of
Cross-contamination with the DNA samples we were collecting. The system must have tried to reconcile the conflicting genetic information during transport. Leighton's head was spinning. Are you saying I've been turned into a woman? I'm afraid so. But don't worry. I'm sure we can fix this. We just need to... The scientist trailed off as she continued to study the readouts. Her face grew increasingly pale. Oh no. What is it? Leighton demanded, trying to ignore how strange it felt to speak with this new voice. The scientist turned to face him, her expression grave. The transformation appears to be... stable. Your genetic structure has been completely rewritten. I'm so sorry, but I'm not sure we can reverse this process. Leighton felt like the floor had dropped out from under him.
You're telling me I'm stuck like this? Permanently?
I'm afraid so. We'll need to run more tests, of course, but...
Tests?
Leighton's voice rose in pitch.
I don't want more tests! I want to go back to normal!
A commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A group of women, the same ones Leighton had seen earlier, were arguing with security guards. Let us through! We need to see what happened! The scientist paled further.
Oh no.
The DNA donors. They must have sensed something. Before Leighton could ask what she meant, the women broke through the security line and rushed over. They stopped short when they caught sight of Leighton, their eyes widening in shock. It's true, one of them gasped. I can feel it. She's family. Leighton blinked in confusion. What are you talking about? Another woman stepped forward, her eyes brimming with tears. I'm so sorry. This is all our fault. We never should have agreed to donate our DNA for this experiment.
I don't understand,
Leighton said, frustration mounting.
What does your DNA have to do with this?
He gestured at his transformed body. The first woman who had spoken took a deep breath.
We're all distantly related. Cousins, a few times removed. When we heard about this teleportation experiment, we thought it would be interesting to see how our shared genetics might be affected. We never imagined this.
Leighton's head was spinning.
Are you saying that I'm related to you now?
The women exchanged glances.
In a way, yes.
The teleporter seems to have combined aspects of our DNA with yours. Genetically speaking, you're now our cousin. Leighton sank into a nearby chair, overwhelmed. This can't be happening. There has to be a way to fix this. The scientist cleared her throat. I'm afraid the changes appear to be permanent. Your entire genetic structure has been rewritten. Attempting to reverse it could be incredibly dangerous, even life-threatening. One of the women, a kind-faced brunette in her 40s, knelt beside Leighton. I know this must be terrifying for you, but please know that we're here for you. You're family now, whether you like it or not. Leighton looked up, meeting her sympathetic gaze.
I don't even know your names.
The women introduced themselves one by one. There was Margaret, the brunette who had spoken, her sister Elizabeth, their cousins Rachel and Diane, and a more distant relative named Catherine. What should we call you? Elizabeth asked, gently. Leighton hesitated. It felt wrong to use his old name now. I'm not sure. Margaret smiled softly. What about Amanda? It was our grandmother's name. Something about the name resonated, and Leighton, now Amanda, nodded slowly. Amanda, I suppose that works as well as anything. The next few hours passed in a blur of paperwork, medical examinations, and hushed conversations with lawyers. The teleportation company was eager to sweep the incident under the rug, offering a substantial settlement in exchange for Amanda's silence. As evening fell, Amanda found herself sitting in Margaret's cozy living room, surrounded by her newfound family. They had insisted on taking her in, at least until she got her bearings. "I know this is a lot to take in," Margaret said, handing Amanda a cup of tea. "But we want you to know that you're not alone. We'll help you through this, every step of the way." Amanda stared into her teacup, still struggling to reconcile her reflection with her sense of self. "I don't even know where to begin. My job, my apartment, my friends. How am I supposed to explain this to anyone?" Rachel leaned forward. "We've been thinking about that. Given the circumstances, it might be easier to start fresh. We could help you create a new identity, explain you as a long-lost relative who's come to stay with us." "But what about my old life?" Amanda asked, a lump forming in her throat. Diane spoke up. "We can help with that too. We'll make sure your affairs are taken care of, your belongings are safe, and when you're ready, if you want to reach out to people from your past, we'll support you." Amanda nodded numbly, overwhelmed by their kindness. "Why are you all being so nice to me? You don't even know me." Elizabeth smiled warmly. "Because you're family now, and in this family, we take care of our own." As the evening wore on, Amanda found herself relaxing slightly. The women shared stories of their own lives, their triumphs and struggles, and Amanda began to see glimpses of herself in each of them. A shared mannerism here, a similar laugh there. "You know," Catherine said thoughtfully, "we've always joked about wanting another girl in the family. I guess the universe decided to take us literally." The comment startled a laugh out of Amanda, surprising her. It was the first time she'd laughed since the incident. Margaret squeezed her hand. "It's going to be okay, sweetie. We'll figure this out together." As Amanda settled into the guest room that night, her mind raced with the events of the day. She still felt like a stranger in her own skin, but the warmth and acceptance of her new family provided a small measure of comfort. Lying in bed, Amanda closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had no idea what the future held, but at least she wouldn't have to face it alone. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity as Amanda adjusted to her new life. Her cousins were true to their word, helping her navigate the complexities of her transformation with patience and understanding. Margaret, a skilled seamstress, took charge of building Amanda's new wardrobe. "First things first," she declared. "We need to get you properly fitted." Amanda stood awkwardly in Margaret's sewing room, arms outstretched as Margaret took her measurements. "I feel ridiculous," she muttered. Margaret chuckled. "Trust me, every woman feels that way during their first fitting. You'll get used to it." As Margaret worked, she chatted about fashion and style, offering tips and advice. Amanda found herself relaxing, even enjoying the experience despite her initial discomfort. Elizabeth, a high school English teacher, took on the task of helping Amanda adjust her speech patterns and mannerisms. "It's not about changing who you are," she explained. "It's about giving you the tools to blend in and feel comfortable in your new skin." They spent hours practicing vocal exercises and discussing body language. Amanda was surprised to find that many of the changes felt natural, as if her new body already knew how to move and speak. Rachel, a hairstylist, gave Amanda her first proper haircut. "Your hair is gorgeous," she gushed as she worked. "You've got some natural wave that we can really play up." As Rachel styled her hair, Amanda studied her reflection in the mirror. The face looking back at her was becoming more familiar. less of a stranger. Diane, who worked in human resources, helped Amanda create a new resume and backstory. "We'll say you've been living abroad," she suggested. "It'll explain any gaps in your employment history and why you're staying with family now." Catherine, the most distant cousin but equally invested in Amanda's well-being, turned out to be a makeup artist. She spent patient hours teaching Amanda the basics of skincare and cosmetics. "Remember," Catherine said as she demonstrated how to apply eyeliner, "makeup is a tool, not a mask. Use it to enhance your natural beauty, not hide who you are." Throughout it all, Amanda was touched by the genuine care and affection her new family showed her. They celebrated her small victories, the first time she successfully walked in heels, her first perfectly applied lipstick, and comforted her during moments of doubt and dysphoria. One evening, about a month after the incident, Amanda sat on the porch swing with Margaret, watching the sunset. "How are you holding up, sweetie?" Margaret asked, her voice gentle. Amanda considered the question. "Better than I expected, honestly. There are still moments when it all feels surreal, like I'm going to wake up and be him again. But then I look in the mirror, or one of you calls me Amanda, and I realize this is my reality now." Margaret nodded, understanding in her eyes. "It's a huge adjustment. You're allowed to have mixed feelings about it." "The thing is," Amanda said slowly, "I'm starting to feel comfortable, like this body isn't just a stranger's anymore. Is that weird?" "Not at all," Margaret reassured her. "Your mind and body are aligning. It's a good thing." Amanda was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you think I'll ever fully feel like me?" Margaret wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Oh, honey, you are you. You've always been you, even if the outside has changed, and we love you, no matter what." Tears welled up in Amanda's eyes, and she leaned into Margaret's embrace. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." As the weeks turned into months, Amanda found herself settling into her new life. She secured a job at a local bookstore, relishing the fresh start and the opportunity to build a new identity. Her coworkers quickly took to her, drawn in by her quick wit and warm personality. Amanda found that many aspects of her old self translated seamlessly into her new life, while others evolved in ways she never expected. She developed a close friendship with a coworker named Megan, who invited her to join a women's book club. At first, Amanda was terrified, certain she would be discovered as an imposter. But as the evening wore on, she found herself relaxing, engaging in the discussion with genuine enthusiasm. "You fit right in," Megan told her afterward. "It's like you've been part of the group forever." Those words stayed with Amanda, a warm glow in her chest. She was fitting in, finding her place in this new world. Of course, there were still challenges. The first time she caught a cold and had to deal with the unfamiliar misery of menstrual cramps, Amanda locked herself in her room, overwhelmed by the physical reminders of her transformation. It was Elizabeth who coaxed her out, armed with hot water bottles, painkillers, and comforting words. "Welcome to the joys of womanhood," she said wryly.
"It's not always glamorous, but we get through it together."
As Amanda's confidence grew, she began to consider reaching out to people from her past. The thought of explaining her transformation was daunting, but the desire to reconnect with old friends and family was strong. She started small, sending an email to her closest friend from college. The response was cautious but open, and they arranged to meet for coffee. Amanda's hands shook as she entered the cafe, spotting her old friend at a corner table. Taking a deep breath, she approached. "Mark?" It's me, Leighton. Or, well, Amanda now. Mark's eyes widened in shock, but to Amanda's relief, there was no disgust or rejection in his expression. Just surprise, and then a slow smile of recognition. Leighton? Is it really you? What? How? Amanda sat down, her rehearsed explanation dying on her lips. Instead, she found herself pouring out the whole story. The teleportation accident, the genetic mixing, her new family and identity. Mark listened in stunned silence, then reached across the table to squeeze her hand.
That's quite a story. But you know what? You're still you. I can see it in your eyes. Tears of relief sprang to Amanda's eyes. You have no idea how much it means to hear you say that. They talked for hours, catching up on lost time. As they parted, Mark hugged her tightly. Don't be a stranger, okay? You're still my friend, no matter what you look like on the outside. That meeting opened the floodgates. Slowly but surely, Amanda began reconnecting with people from her past. Some reactions were less positive than Mark's, but for the most part, she found acceptance and support. Her parents were the last to know, and the hardest to tell. Amanda agonized over how to break the news, finally deciding that a face-to-face meeting was the only way. She arrived at their house with Margaret for moral support, her heart pounding as she rang the doorbell. When her mother answered, Amanda saw the moment of non-recognition, followed by dawning shock. Mom, she said softly. It's me, Leighton. I have a lot to explain. What followed was an emotional roller coaster of a conversation. There were tears, questions, moments of disbelief and confusion. But in the end, as Amanda's mother pulled her into a tight embrace, she knew that the core of their relationship remained unchanged. You'll always be our child,
her father said gruffly, his own eyes suspiciously bright.
No matter what you look like, or what name you go by.
As Amanda drove home that evening, she felt a sense of peace settling over her. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but she was no longer afraid to face them. Back at Margaret's house, she found her cousins waiting anxiously for news of the meeting. Amanda looked at their concerned faces and felt a rush of affection for these women who had become such an integral part of her life. It went well, she told them, smiling through her tears. Really well. There was a collective sigh of relief, followed by a group hug that threatened to squeeze the breath out of Amanda. But she didn't mind. This was her family, old and new, bound by blood and by choice. Later that night, Amanda stood in front of her mirror, really looking at herself. She saw the features she now shared with her cousins. Margaret's eyes, Elizabeth's smile, Rachel's cheekbones. But she also saw herself, the person she had always been, now reflected in a new form. For the first time since that fateful day at the mall, Amanda felt truly at peace with her reflection. This was who she was now, not just on the outside, but on the inside too. A perfect blend of her past and present, of chance and choice. She thought back to that moment in the teleportation chamber, the flash of light that had changed everything. It had been terrifying, overwhelming, life-altering. But standing here now, surrounded by love and acceptance, Amanda couldn't help but feel grateful for the twist of fate that had brought her to this point. She was Amanda now. Cousin, daughter, friend. A woman forged by science and embraced by family. And as she smiled at her reflection, she knew that whatever challenges the future held, she was ready to face them. After all, she had the strength of generations behind her, the love of 2 families supporting her, and a whole new life ahead of her. It wasn't the path she had expected to walk, but it was hers, and she would walk it with pride. Amanda turned away from the mirror and headed downstairs, where she could hear her cousins laughing in the kitchen. Her family was waiting, and she was home.
Thanks for watching, my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.